12:43. Cassie told Watts, Shanann is in a very bad way emotionally and I'm worried about her. I know you are having issues, but I don't know to what extent. But I do know I've never seen her so broken to an extent I'm worried. Watts replied, she went to a friend's house with the kids. She won't tell me where though. When I get home, I will update you. So what he's trying to do there is kick the can down the road. When Cassie says, I don't know to what extent you guys are having issues, that is absolutely right. That is absolutely the kernel of what is going on, is the extent to which there are issues going on. Minutes later, Cassie told Watts, sweetie, nobody knows about you and her other than Nikki and I. So where would she go if not with Nikki and not to Arizona where I'm at? Her car and shoes and everything is at the house. Something else that Nicole Utoft would say, and Nicole Atkinson, is that the car seats for the kids weren't even in the car. So how could the kids have been taken anywhere? What the heck is going on with you guys that she would totally shut out everything? It's not like her. Watts responded, I told Nikki about it so she wouldn't freak out anymore at the house. I think Christina knows as well. We talked last night and I told her I wanted to sell the house, get something smaller. Separation would be best right now if we can work through the issues. I really don't want you to think I'm a bad person, Cassie.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. So just dealing with that piece, and this is the second part of day 0, right? Monday the 13th. What stands out as not making any sense there? Well, obviously, how could Chris Watts talk to Shanann, have this big conversation about the house, about separating at 2 o'clock in the morning? It's very, very unlikely. Like most people wouldn't do that. And so in his story, he actually has this conversation at, I guess, 4 o'clock that morning. But none of that really makes sense. And yet I think it's the premeditated idea that he had, which he stuck to even when she arrived much later. Remember, she was supposed to arrive home at around about 11 p.m. And then it kind of would have made sense to have that conversation quite late that night. But at 2 o'clock in the morning, very unlikely. To Cassie's credit, she says, in response to him saying, I don't want you to think I'm a bad person, she says, right now I don't care about you or your relationship or what type of person you are or not, or what I think of you, and I'm not trying to be rude when I say that. In the midst of all that was occurring, Watts tended to his real estate concerns, telling Ann Meadows, basement is still unfinished, no other upgrades. 13:03 hours. Cassie chastised Watts, explaining her only concern was for his damn wife and her well-being. Cassie advised, Nikki is calling the police. So you can see that Cassie and Nicole are consulting with one another and deciding this is bullshit. This doesn't really make sense. Now, in the previous video, and I think some of you misunderstood what I was trying to get at, is by the end of day 1, Chris Watts was at home and everyone was basically hoping and expecting Shanann to come home. In other words, they basically accepted his version of events. And if you doubt that, well, Chris Watts wasn't arrested on day 1, or for that matter, on day 2. And that raises another question, and I'll answer that question at the end of this episode. When do you think, and how do you think it came about, people became aware that Chris Watts was having an affair? Where did that information come from for the first time? Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile and you want to read more about it, I do highly recommend my 9-book series, the Two-Face series, as well as the trilogy, the Silver Fox series. In particular, the very last book in that series, Silver Fox Post-Truth. Out of the approximately 100 books that I've written on true crime, that was one of the very last books that I wrote. And so as a result, I think it's one of the best writing efforts that I've actually done. If you haven't hit the thanks button so far and you want to show your appreciation, even a small token amount of $1, $2 means something, please do hit the thanks button and let's get started. So it's now 13:05. Watts tells Cassie, I'm going home, Cassie, on my way. Don't call the police. I'll be there in 45 minutes. And so Watts is really trying to put out fires here. This is really the worst case scenario. Never in a million years would he have imagined, before they even halfway through the day, the police are being summoned. Watts has also vastly underestimated Shanann's friendship, Shanann's close relationship with some of her fellow thrivers, specifically Cassie and Nicole. Good for them, using their common sense, using their critical thinking, they call the police despite his protestations. Cassie thanks him for returning home and explains her fears. Nikki and I know what state she was in all weekend, and we want to see she isn't in the house because this is seriously a concern. And so, do you know what they're actually imagining is the case? They think that Shanann could be at home, passed out on the ground, perhaps in her bedroom from a sort of hyperglycemic, low blood sugar situation because she's pregnant. In other words, they want access to the house. They think Shanann might be somewhere in the house, perhaps the kids as well. That is what they're thinking. This is what I mean by they don't really suspect Chris really at this point of something as serious as what he did. And I mean, who would? But this is the point. This is what they're thinking had happened. 13:07, Watts called Cassie and held a 1-minute conversation. 13:13 hours. McCoy asked Watts if everything was okay. If you need anything, let me know. Now, at this point, Watts has got to do something he really doesn't want to do. He's got to tell his co-workers, possibly even get permission from his boss at Anadarko. There's a big issue at home. I need to leave the well site. Is it okay if I go? I've got kind of a family emergency. And so that is then documented, and this also alerts Anadarko to a serious situation that one of the employees is going home and the police have been summoned to that address. And what do you think is the result of that?
How you guys doing?
Brother,
What's that?
do you remember me?
Yeah.
Hey man, Ben.
How you been?
Hi.
You Nicole?
Yes.
Okay. So what's going on?
So my friend, we were out of town for a business trip this weekend,
All right.
and I dropped her off at 2 o'clock this morning. She's 15 weeks pregnant. She wasn't feeling well, and she had a doctor's appointment this morning at 9, and I told her to let me know if she needed me to take her. She's got 2 little girls, and she was very distraught over the weekend, wasn't eating normally or drinking, and we kept trying to force it on her because she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband and her supposedly are separating, but she didn't know this. She thought they were just having issues. He disclosed that to me today.
Okay.
Because I called him and I was like, have you talked or heard from Shanann since she left for work this morning? Because I can't get a hold of her. I've called, I've texted. Her car's in the garage. Her shoes she wears every single day are by the front door.
She only has one vehicle?
No, they only have the one vehicle in his work truck.
Okay. That's what I'm asking.
She
There's
took
not
the girls and went on a play date, but they're...
So let's see how well you know the Watts case. How did Nicole know that her car is there and that the seats weren't in the car? Well, the answer is that her son took the initiative. I think she pulled her car a bit closer. Her son stood on the side of the car and actually looked through those small little square windows of the garage, looked through them, saw that Shanann's Lexus was there, saw inside the window that these kids' seats weren't there. And that's how they knew if her car was home, Shanann should have been home. And what's also very interesting about this is that Nicole's son looked after the house when Chris Watts was out of town. And remember that he left the Lexus at airport parking. And so every time he was at the house, he knew that the garage was empty. In other words, no one's here, the garage is empty. And so one of the ways to check is anyone home would be to look through that window, and there's the answer. The vehicle is there, so where is Shanann? And that was the big thing that didn't make any sense. And that's also where you can see Nicole is thinking critically, thinking like a detective. And that's why the question arises, it's a pity we're thinking critically at this point and not earlier. Imagine if one could have used this critical thinking, this level of detail earlier, paying attention to details, paying attention to someone's movements. One could have seen where this is going ahead of time rather than after the fact. Does that make sense? Now let's have a look at Chris Watts arriving at the house as a result of Nicole calling the cops.
I'm here. Hang on.
Yeah, keep me on the phone.
Okay, get Matt on the phone.
Scott, how you doing?
How's it going?
So this is the only vehicle she would have?
Only one that, yeah.
She would drive? Okay.
The white car drove away from here at 1:48 in the morning.
That's me.
Is that you at
Yeah.
1:48?
The neighbors went and checked his camera and they said that a white car drove away at 1. It was me, though. That was me. I dropped her off.
That was the last.
Now, you may notice what's quite suspicious here is Chris Watts quickly runs up the driveway and then he shakes the officer's hand and then he's gone. There's like no moment where he stands there to be interrogated by Nikki in front of the officer. He stands there, dodges the officer, goes into the garage, sort of half speaks to the officer over his shoulder. Then he comes back, opens the car door, takes something out. That's something also we found out later on. He takes something out the car, could even have been her phone, then goes into the house and everyone else is outside. He kind of owes them an explanation, but he goes into the house ahead of everyone. And I think while he does that, he possibly plants her phone in the couch upstairs on the landing. Because that's another question. Where's her phone?
Who do you guys bank with?
Chasing USA.
Definitely an odd one.
I don't know what I can do right now. Should I drive around like the normal route that she would be?
Where does she normally go to?
I mean, just like drive where like she would normally take the kids to school. People that I know that live down, people that live, Kristen lives down that way. I mean, that's the only routes I know she would really take.
Does she go to their house frequently or?
And not much, but. Hey. I'm still talking to the officer right now. Okay, bye. I will, definitely. Bye. Sorry about that. That was a mom. I mean, you think it's smart just drive around, see if
Probably not, because I mean, you don't know what car she's in, where she's at. I mean, obviously you're not going to see her car. It's here.
Well, I know Amanda's out of town because her brother died.
Yeah.
And she's not flying back till the day. And the other one she's really close with that I know is Sarah.
what else do you think I could do?
Yeah.
Just wait for her here?
Up there.
Well, I've got my detective coming,
Okay.
just because this is kind of an odd situation. See if we can try to get her pinpointed down, find a friend or something.
Okay.
He may have you call the bank.
Okay. Hey sir, it's Chris Watts. Not too bad. Have you heard from Shane today? No, I have not. I was just, you're my last person to call. So I just alright. I don't want to make you nervous or anything, but I'll keep you posted. No. Okay, thank you. Bye. Not bad.
And she lives around here.
She lives in Aurora.
Or
You okay?
Yeah, I don't want to answer because she's smelly. She go funny?
You can see the blue phone, the blue handset on the side of the stairs there, right on the edge. That's Shanann's phone. That has actually been recovered from the couch, and that is actually recovered by Nicole's son. Some more critical thinking going on there. I think the value in looking at this footage of Chris Watts is you look at someone's face and you know that they've done something wrong, and the question is, can you see it on their face? And you can see there certain signs that he's nervous. But the fact is he committed this crime are you able to see it in this person's demeanor? And as I say, at the end of this day, he wasn't arrested. He was basically given the benefit of the doubt. And so as obviously simple a criminal as Chris Watts is, he's nevertheless it's not that easy to see someone acting diabolically just through their facial expressions. If we try and apply this in our everyday lives, it's not easy. We've really got to pay attention. Let's return to the timeline. 1314, Meadows asked if Watts preferred a 3-car garage. Watts replied, 3-car garage, I will drive by the 6508 address when I get home. This idea that he wants a 3-car garage just shows you that he hasn't learned anything about their excesses. He hasn't learned anything about living beyond their means. Maybe he thinks if his salary and Kessinger's, if they put them together, they're suddenly going to be able to afford this lifestyle. 13:31 and 13:59 hours, Nicole Atkinson called Watts twice, briefly. 14:10, Christina Meacham asked Watts, what's going on? Where are you? We are so worried. What the F? 14:11, Watts sent another staged message to Shanann's phone, where are you? You get the idea that he's so alerted to everyone being concerned that he realizes, I probably need to show concern as well. 14:14, and at this point, Shanann's phone is being retrieved, right? Messages from Utoft were finally received by Shanann's phone. Why? Because it was turned on. By all accounts, these would have been sent by Utoft early in the morning before she called police. They included, just wanted to see if you were okay. I know you were hurting a lot last night. Hope you're okay. Also, let me know how your appointment goes. Also, I have been to your house. You won't open the door. Your alarm is set. Your shoes are sitting inside. Your car's home. I'm so very concerned about you right now. I need you to call me and just tell me, okay, if you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't want to be around anybody, I get it, it's fine, but I need to know you're okay. So that's another reason that Nicole is concerned, is her messages aren't going through. Shanann is always available on her phone. Right now, right to the middle of the day, she's simply not responding. For a MLM person, someone who's absolutely active on social media, this is very unlike Shanann. 14:26, Watts told Christina, the police are here, call you when I know. 15:46, Addie asked Watts what was happening. I'm so worried. Watts called Addie and held a 6-minute conversation. 15:48, Addie told the group, the police need to look at Chris's cell. 4 exclamation marks and computer. So Addie is definitely concerned what's going on. Shanann's phone soon exploded with anxious messages of concern from friends and family across the nation. As the afternoon moved into evening, the messages became gut-wrenching pleas to hear from Shanann, sending her prayers, hope, and their love. 16:22 hours. When Kelly Burke asked what the police were saying, Watts said, they will file a missing persons report in the morning if we don't hear from her. And that is essentially where the investigation stood at the end of day 0. Can you see? At most, it was just a missing persons report. At this point, only one entity knows about Chris Watts' affair. Do you know who that is? Well, the answer is Anadarko, and as far as I know, they ascertained this affair was either through the handsets, through the work phone communications, or it was through their emails, or both, but that is how they determined it. They were the first to discover this affair between Watts and Kessinger. And you can understand that they'd be very concerned about damage control, trying to limit the fallout to their corporate reputation. Because it's not just 2 co-workers that are involved, you've got bodies buried on their site, and how did that happen? Anyway, I'm not going to take it further than that. We'll deal with the evening aspect of the phone data review for day 0, that's August 13th, in the next episode. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.